Welcome back, everybody, to Let's Talk About It. I am your host, David, and here with me today is my little brother, Jonathan. Jonathan, say hi.
Hey, what's up, guys?
So, if you noticed in the first video that we did, it was a video recording, and then the lost video was our actual first recording, and it was a voice recording. The reason why we're going back to voice recording is because I finally figured out how to voice recordings into video recordings or into video files, which took me way longer than I'll ever care to admit. But,
Jesus. You're like an old man. You don't know how to use technology.
Shit, I have stuff popping up all over my computer again. Get out of here. Anyways, so as I said, Jonathan is here with me today, and we're going to be talking about the Halo games. You
Yeah,
excited?
yeah.
You excited?
It's a lot to talk about, but yeah.
Now I will mention, and God, I hate this computer so much. I will mention that we're only going to be talking about the 5 Halo games, the original 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We won't be talking about any of the spin-offs.
So no Reach, no ODST,
no Halo Wars. That's a video for another day because I don't want this to end up being a 4-hour long video. I mean, stop popping up on my computer. God, I hate this computer so much. But yeah, so I'm super excited about this. Are you excited?
Oh yeah, I love Halo, so
Let me turn this down because again, it's picking up so much like feedback. 85 should be the ideal recording for this.
hopefully that's good. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully there won't be like a big repercussion on this. So, let me ask you first, what is your favorite Halo game and what is your least favorite Halo game? Bearing in mind we just actually talked about this while we were waiting for this stupid computer to update.
Yeah.
So,
that took too long.
Oh my gosh, stop. Go away. Go away. I don't care. Go away.
This is like such a touchy subject because I know like a bunch of Halo fans are gonna be like, "Oh, you don't know what a good Halo game is."
Well, okay, I'm not talking about the best and worst Halo game because obviously everyone has their own opinion on those. I'm just asking your favorite and least favorite Halo games. Bearing in mind we just talked about this.
Probably most favorite, the game that I enjoyed the most with gameplay and stuff. It would probably have to be a close toss-up between 5 and Halo 2.
5 and 2 which one? But which one definitively would you say is your favorite?
Probably 5 because the new controls, the new mechanics, the easier the more maneuverability, I guess.
The maneuverability.
Whatever.
And we'll talk about why it's your favorite game in just a second, but just favorite and least favorite.
I know everyone's gonna hate me, but I don't like the first one that much.
Okay, well, I'd say
I think it's an amazing game. I just don't like it in the aspect of it's just not like it's good, but at the same time you play it and then you play the new ones and you're like, man, like.
Well, I mean that's due because of the technology at the time and you know they were kind of building this universe for the ground up. Like they had no idea where it was going to go. So, I mean, you got to give it to them that they did a hell of a good job.
They did, but I feel like in mainly the missions, you just find yourself repeating and like doing the exact same thing over and over and over again.
That's fair. I'll give that to you. I would have to say my favorite Halo game would probably have to be Halo 2, and we'll get into why in just a second. My least favorite is Halo 5.
Your least favorite is Halo 5.
Least favorite. Now, I'm not saying that it's a bad game. A lot of people hate Halo 5. Like there's a lot of fans out there that hate Halo 5. I don't. I don't hate any Halo game. I love Halo. I love the original Halo. I love 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, I really loved 4. And that's a game that for some reason a lot of Halo fans hate. And I can't wrap my head around why, cuz it was a great game. I thought it was really good. Now I understand I can understand where it's coming from, where they're saying that it kind of went away from the main continuity and kind of started its own continuity, and it is very much a soft reboot. So, bearing that in mind, I guess where people are coming from when they say they don't like that game, but I personally really do like that game. So,
I mean, yeah, people have a problem with Halo 4. See, I don't have a problem with it. I just have a problem with how much stronger the enemies are than you, and then it just feels like your weapons do almost nothing to them, which, if you do look at the files in Halo 4, most of the weapons, like, they have insane damage, insane velocity, like, all of these things are, like, really good, and then the weapons are just trash against the enemies. Like
Which they fixed in Halo 5.
They did. The Halo 5 weapons are much better than any other game.
They improved the weapon damage so much in Halo 5, which, yeah, that is a big problem for me in Halo 4 is the weapons. They feel very underpowered. Because it's always been a good balance is where you're a very powerful character, such as the Master Chief, you're a super soldier, and can kill people with literally one melee to the chest. They always found a way to balance out the weapons where the weapons didn't feel too overpowered. But in Halo 4, you feel like a weaker character, and your weapons feel like pea shooters compared to the enemy, which I really didn't like.
Yeah.
The weapons feel just so underpowered and weak.
So,
but other than that, it's a pretty good game. So let's get into why you. Which one did you say was your favorite?
I would say
Halo
probably.
5. You said Halo 5. Correct?
Halo 5.
So why is that game your favorite?
On my part, I don't look just so much as the story because I think it has a pretty good mediocre, storyline. I liked the parts with Master Chief. Agent Locke, I feel like he's a good character, but he's nothing compared to Master Chief.
So that begs the question. You play for most of the game as Spartan Locke, which is why it's my least favorite game. So you just said you don't like Spartan Locke as much as you like Master Chief, so why do you still justify that as your favorite game?
Because even though Spartan Locke isn't
Well, I mean, I know it's because you're a dumbass, but...
hey man. Okay, listen, this is my thinking on it. If you're gonna have a game and have it be probably one of the best out of the series, but you don't play as your favorite character, I would rather have that than play as your favorite character and have it be the worst game out of the series.
Okay, I definitely get where you're coming from that, but that being said, there is a lot of problems with Halo 5, and which we'll get into.
The team for Halo 5, they completely... I don't want to go into it.
Also, I think the biggest problem with Halo 5 is no cooperative gameplay. Which, there are 4 NPCs with you, and of course you can play online, but the fact that you can't just play normal co-op, or, there's no multiplayer in the game except for online, which the Xbox community is going more and more towards that, which I don't really like, which is it's part of the reason why I got a PS4, because there's still a lot of single player PS4 games, and PS4 isn't perfect. Obviously, it has a lot of online games, and I don't think it has as many titles as the Xbox does. And whenever it does release a title, those titles are hit or miss. But the reason why I got a PS4 is because there's still single player games that care about putting you into a story and putting you into a character's shoes. But and that's why I think that the PS4 is a little bit better than the Xbox. Not because it has better games, but because it has games that care about a story and care about putting you in a character's shoes.
That is true. Most games on Xbox that fail from, that are just trash games because I feel like Microsoft just sometimes they really let people down on some of their games. Now, I'm not saying that for all of their games, because most of their games are really, really good.
Yeah, there are some solid titles that have come out.
And it's not just Microsoft, like a bunch of different companies, like EA lets their games down by putting in microtransactions.
Well, if you look at the statistics, most of the games that have failed this year are games that have solely been online games. I mean, Anthem failed, Fallout 76 failed. Fallout 76 failed epically. Like, that game was a dumpster fire. And another game that failed that was an online game, I'm blanking out on the name here. There was another title that came out that failed.
I have no idea, because I've only been playing Anthem for the past couple of months.
And I will say this, Anthem is not a bad game. It is not a bad game, but the problem with that game is microtransactions and the fact that it's completely online.
There are no microtransactions actually in the game. The only thing that you can do with your money is get better cosmetics. That's the only thing throughout the whole game to make your suit look cooler. The thing that has failed, and the reason why the player count has dropped so dramatically is because they had 7 years to work on this game and they released it. And they said it's in full release, but it still feels like it's just a beta launch.
Yeah, it
because
really does.
The loot system is completely whack. Sometimes I'll go in getting The
Battlefront
best
2.
loot.
Battlefront 2. That was the game that I was thinking of that failed. Battlefront 2. But
Well,
continue what you're saying. But
yeah, but the loot system just is garbage because sometimes you can get the best loot, and then other days you'll just not get anything good. And the teams, they always say that they're fixing it up, but they constantly post things on social media saying, "Oh, this game is such a good game," but it's not ever
I feel
about
like that's
Anthem.
what you need to do in order to promote your product.
No, but it's not about Anthem.
How would you feel? How would you feel if they went online and said this game is crap? Don't
No,
buy it.
but it's not about their game though. It's about another developer's game. They never post stuff about Anthem. They're starting to go silent, which is scaring the community.
Well, because here's the thing about Anthem is it. There's a lot of potential in it. Because
It's really fun.
From what bits and pieces you get from the story, there's a lot of potential in it. But the problem with Anthem, which is a problem with a lot of Microsoft games, is it's all online, which is what Halo 5 suffered from. It's all online. And Halo is known for really, really great multiplayer. And granted, there is a lot of online stuff in the other Halo games. Like Halo 3 has a great online multiplayer.
But so does Reach. Reach today, online you can still queue up with people, which I find amazing.
That's fine, but that's the thing though. Those games still have cooperative as a result. Like you can still play alone and you can still play co-op with somebody in the same room as you.
Exactly.
And that's why those games are so great. But as soon as you take away that aspect from players and you say no, you can only play with other players if you're online, that's where a lot of people get turned off from that. Because there's a lot of people. Well, there is a lot of people who like to play online. There's a lot of people who don't like that. I'm included in that. I don't like playing online. I like single player stories.
To your point, yeah, single player stories are much more enjoyable because you feel like you're actually doing it. Online with people that you don't know, that's the problem that I have with it, is just being with people that you don't know.
Right.
They're gonna go ahead of the mission. They maybe have done it like 5 times, and they're just gonna go and they're gonna do it and they're gonna be done with it. And you're like, well, I didn't get the experience that I wanted out of it. Mm-hmm. But they are fixing that for the new Halo game, which is coming up, which is actually called Halo Infinity.
Halo Infinity? I thought it was called Halo Infinite.
It's one of those two.
It's Infinite. I'm pretty sure it's Infinite.
I don't care.
But I could be wrong.
Well, I mean, I do care, obviously, but I don't care about the name. It's going to be Halo 6 to me. They're trying to move it away from the Final Fantasy thing where they're going into Final Fantasy like 12 or something like that. I don't know.
Final Fantasy 12. I don't play those games. But,
I know. I've never played those games.
We're getting off track. Let's go back to talking about the Halo games. So, let's start with Halo 1. Halo 1 is a very important game to the first-person shooter genre because before Halo Combat Evolved, which first-person shooter games were games where it was just like, I've opened a portal to another dimension, now we gotta kill what's come out of that dimension. Like, you had your Wolfenstein, you had your Doom, and it was...
Which are amazing games. I like both of those.
Those games are very much just, you're a guy who's opened a portal, or you're a guy who's just shooting at Nazis, and that's it. I mean, that's all there was. Halo came out with a very immersive story where you were this super soldier who was defending the world that he loved. I mean, you crash landed on a strange alien world, which was the Halo ring, and the Covenant are. And the thing I like about that game is you don't know why the Covenant's there. Like, you don't know. I mean, it explains it in the second game, but it gives really no explanation to why the Covenant is there. Obviously, it gives you, in the beginning of the game, that you know that the Covenant have attacked Earth, and that they're trying to destroy...
They haven't attacked Earth, they have destroyed Reach, and you've just left from Reach.
Right.
So you think they're just following you
and that's another thing that I like. Well, I don't like the game Halo Reach, which a lot of people tell me that I know that's a very unpopular opinion to not like Halo Reach, but that's something that I do like, that this game takes place like hours after Reach happened, I think, right?
Yeah, it's one hyperspace like away, like they just jump and then boom, first game.
Right, because I think the end of Halo Reach is literally where Halo 1 begins. Like it begins. I think the ending of Halo Reach is like 2 hours before Halo 1, isn't it? something like that.
It's really close, like not even more than 5 hours, because Master Chief has been in hyperspace and it's not even been that
He's been in
long.
hypersleep. I mean,
Well, he's been in hypersleep
in the
the
beginning
entire
of
time
Halo,
of Reach.
yeah, in the beginning of Halo 1, it tells you that he's been in hypersleep for a while, but Halo Reach takes place like right before Halo 1, which is really cool. I really like that aspect of it. I don't like that game, but I do like that aspect. I like how closely it ties to it without breaking continuity.
Yeah, which when I figured that out playing Halo Reach, I know we said we weren't going to talk about it, but when I was playing that last mission and I see the Pillar of Autumn lift off and like shoot out, and then the end cutscene is they stop and you can see the Pillar of Autumn and then you see the Halo ring, and I'm like, this game has come full circle.
Yeah.
Like that was supposed to be the last game that Microsoft made, right, for Halo, and it was supposed to stop right there. And then they made Halo 4, and I was like, I'm fine with that, but that would have been just a complete, like, amazing, like, circle that they made to the Halo game.
Yeah, and that's an aspect that I do like about it, how it's able to tie itself into Halo 1 without breaking continuity, which is a big problem a lot of video games have, is they break continuity. But Halo is one of the few games that hasn't really, other than Halo 4, which is kind of a soft reboot, which we talked about. The Halo games are known for not really breaking their continuity, which I really like. So anyways, but yeah, Halo 1 was the first-person shooter game to really introduce us to a very in-depth story. Because before then, first-person shooter games weren't taken very seriously until Halo.
Yeah.
Until Halo kind of revolutionized it. Not only did they revolutionize the first-person shooter genre, it kind of revolutionized video games in general. Because a lot of video games didn't really have this in-depth of a story. So
no, by far, Halo 1 just shot everything, like, out of the park. The graphics were amazing for the time.
And that's
Everything
another thing.
was like close quarters, and then Halo opens you to this huge, gigantic world, and that's what brought everyone into Halo.
Right,
I think.
and Halo, well, it did revolutionize it. It is still very much a first-person shooter game. You know, it's not one big flowing game. There are levels that you have to go to because there's sections. It's not an open world game to where everything is very fluid. There are levels and there are stages, and that's very evident in the game. But each stage is kind of like, and this is something I really like about Halo, is each game is kind of like its own little open world. There are a lot of places you can go to find Easter eggs, and the map itself is very open, but at the same time it's very condensed. Like there's no side missions or anything. Well, it is a very linear path. The world that you're in, or at least the map that you're in, is a little open for you to kind of go explore and find Easter eggs and see different things. Well, there are no side quests, which a lot of people think that Halo Infinite is going to be very much an open world game where there are going to be side quests.
That's the thing. It's going to be like a semi-open world, kind of like how God of War is now.
Yeah.
How it's like you have your main mission and you're going to be following a path, but you have that replayability of you don't have to replay the mission. You can still travel throughout the world, and there's going to be, like, events in the world.
Yeah, and, like, you can go back and do certain things or open certain doors that you couldn't open before when you level up and stuff like that, which I don't know if I'm completely on board yet, because Halo has not been known, because Halo is very much a level-based game. It's very much a stage-based game. So I don't know how I feel about an open world Halo game yet, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, and we'll see what happens. But
I feel like if they do execute it, it can be amazing, but there's also that chance of it just completely sucking, just being terrible, not coming back.
There's a chance of it completely like sucking balls.
Sucking balls, bro. Big brass ones.
There is a big chance of that, which I'm really scared about. But I mean, it's Halos. You could literally have like a turtle on the screen for 2 seconds and people would still buy it because
I would buy it. I would buy it.
Halo.
As long as the turtle like name was Halo or it had a Halo on it, I'd be happy.
But so yeah, Halo 1, which in Halo 1 introduced the Flood as well. The Flood has become a fan favorite in Halo lore, and that's the thing that I like, is Halo 1 is not only a first person shooter. When the Flood are introduced, it transitions into a horror game. Because there
Well,
is a lot of jump scares involving the Flood, and it is very tense fighting them. Because they pour out of every single corner, and you don't know when they're coming or where they're coming from, and it's very evident that this is a very new species that the Marines are dealing with.
which, yeah, for the time, like, having computer, like, players, not, like, players, but I mean, like,
Right.
whatever you call them.
Having that many NPCs on the screen at one time.
Yeah.
Which, I will say
Which
this,
is...
when the Flood do appear and all those NPCs are on the screen at once, that game bugs out like crazy.
Yeah,
especially the original. We have the Master Chief Collection, which is obviously remastered. Like the first two games are remastered, and the third game, which the interesting thing about the third game is it doesn't need to be remastered because that game runs so smoothly and it looks so fantastic. I mean, that game does look great.
I mean, I think it would be amazing if they did put remastered graphics on it. I think it would look 20 times better.
I definitely want them to, but that game looks so good for the time.
Yeah,
it still holds up, so they didn't even need to.
I don't have a problem with it. Like, I think the game looks fine and everything, but going back to the Flood, like, if they wanted to recreate that nowadays, if you've heard of the game, it came out recently. It's World War Z. And
obviously, I've heard of that game. Everyone's heard of that game.
I know, but it like just came out.
I know it came out. Yeah, I've heard of it.
I know, but like if they like
what
put the Flood, I'm trying to say like they have to up their scale if they want to put the Flood into this new game because you just see that swarm of zombies like coming at you. I want that to be like the experience with the Flood, just thousands of Flood.
Okay, well that's the thing is the Flood have always. Okay, so the Flood is a parasite in the game. If for those of you who have never played Halo, what the Flood is, it's a parasite that goes inside someone and can take over their body.
It reanimates them. It's basically like a space zombie.
Not necessarily reanimates them, because in Halo 3 we see that it can take over humans. Like living humans. It can take over living beings. You don't have to be dead. Which in the first two games it made it seem like you had to be dead. Then they introduced the idea in Halo 3, which there's a terrifying scene in Halo 3, which we'll get to.
But we gotta discuss Halo 2 first. We're skipping around.
Before we discuss, but it did introduce in Halo 3 that it can take over living people. Like, you don't have to be dead.
Yeah.
So, but there's always been a fine line crossed to where I like that about the Flood, because there's always been a fine line cross where they don't feel like zombies.
No, like it's not. I'm not saying they're like zombies. They're
very much a parasitic race, which were created by. Which I'm not quite sure. Which the thing about the Flood is they've always had a very ambiguous origin. Like, are they living creatures, or did the Forerunners create them, or were they a biological weapon? Like, did the Forerunners make them and sell them to people, or did they drop them on planets, or were they, a product of, we don't know what they are.
Well, I mean, there's lore that, like, basically leads you to it, but I'm not that much of a nerd to go that far into it. If you want to, there's a bunch of Halo channels out there that can probably tell you. One of them is Halo Follower,
which I think is the biggest one, but...
Yeah, and he has explanations for everything.
We're getting off track. But yeah, so that's, Halo 1, well, it's not my favorite. It is a very influential game for games, for any game in general, especially the first-person shooter genre.
And the cool thing about that game is when you're fighting everything, you're thinking that the Covenant and the Flood are just mindless, like, monsters, basically, as you're fighting through it.
At first they were. Like in the first game, they are very much just destroy all the humans. That's all they are. They don't have any personality in the first game.
The only thing that shows you personality through the game is the mission called Keys. And Captain Keys is, like, in this entangled mess of, like, Flood, like, mass. Like, it's really gross. And he's speaking to you, but you can tell that it's not Keys, it's the Flood speaking to you. And then you go to Halo 2.
So Halo 2 is a very interesting game because the first game kind of introduces you to this these Covenant that are very much like we just said, destroy all humans and kind of mindless and don't have a personality to. You figure out that they are religious fanatics. Like
Yes,
the opening scene of Halo 2 begins with a trial, which I love that
yeah.
so
Most people
much.
hate Halo 2 because they're like, oh, it's turning into too much of a space opera. Because at the time, like we said, first person shooters were open up a portal, kill mindless monsters,
Or like
you win.
shoot Nazis because for some reason there's like robot Nazis in the future or whatever. But
Exactly.
you know,
But Halo 2 just completely does away with that and shows you that,
it makes you care for the bad guys. Like
yeah,
it shows you that what the aliens are doing they believe is absolutely correct. And
exactly.
the reason why they're trying to take over Earth is not because they're trying to destroy Earth, it's because they're trying to colonize it and kind of convert them to their way of thinking. And then once the humans go onto the first Halo ring and destroy it, like that's when the Covenant decide humanity needs to die because they're heretics because they
Yeah,
destroyed the Halo rings. And then the Arbiter, which I can't remember his actual name, but
I I'm
it's
not that much of a nerd.
yeah,
Like I said before.
I think it's Julius Odama, something like
No,
that.
no, that's the religious fanatic in the fourth one, the fourth Halo
That
game.
yeah no no, yeah that's the religion. You're right.
Yeah,
I can't remember his name, but he's put on trial for not for not stopping the Master Chief from blowing up the Halo ring. And
which I mean, he couldn't really do anything.
well, he's called a heretic, and he's branded. He's stripped from his armor, which it makes it very clear that that is the ultimate amount of humility that an elite can get. Because the elite, right, is the highest ranking of all the Covenant. Like
They have the
they
best
are the
armor.
generals. They have the best armor. And then he's stripped from his armor and he's branded. And the Arbiter is a very interesting title because the Arbiter is an elite that has been stripped down to that has pretty much been humiliated in front of everybody, and they're put in the Arbiter's position to redeem themselves.
And they're basically just gonna die. Like they
Like
only use them so that
yeah,
they can die in honor.
they're only used so that they can so they're only used for pretty much suicide missions. Like you have nothing left to your reputation, so try to gain an ounce of it back and then go kill and pretty much go die trying. Like gain it back and die trying, pretty much.
Yeah, which Truth says that. I believe it's Truth. The main
Which what are the prophets' names? It's Truth, Regret, and
Truth,
Regret.
Mercy, and Regret.
Truth, Mercy, and Regret. Right.
I think those are the ones.
Yeah, Truth,
Mercy might be wrong, but I know Truth and Regret are correct.
Yeah.
But Truth, he says, like, arbiters are used in different times, and he says in the times of, like, taming the hunters.
The taming of the hunters, the Grunt Rebellion, and
another one, but
what was the third one? The taming of the hunters, the Grunt Rebellion, and it had something to do with the brutes. But
it, like, just all these things, and you hear these things, and you're like, well, obviously they died, and you can. In the game, you see, and there's just multiple tombs of just different arbiters just
like
surrounding
there's
them.
thousands of them.
Yeah,
And
like
so the Covenant have been a force in the galaxy, in our galaxy for a very long time, which I really like that aspect. It's not some random alien force. Like this is a military group that have been together for a long time, and they're all religious fanatics. Like they all worship the Forerunners. They call it the Great Journey. They all think that if they ignite the Halo rings, then they're going to be taken to salvation. And
which they're just gonna die
Well,
because
they don't know, but it's very heavily implied that the prophets know that. Like it's very heavily implied that the prophets know that the Halo rings are going to destroy the universe, and that is their ultimate goal.
the prophets know that that's gonna happen, but they tell everyone else that
It's never openly said that they know that, but it's very heavily implied that they know what's going to happen.
which in the first game you figure out that it's a bomb not to kill the flood because the floods are like they're just gonna keep on expanding, it's a bomb to kill the Flood's food source.
Right, and the Halo rings, and in Halo 2, it's said, well, it's still keeping the Flood's origin ambiguous. It said that the Halo rings were built by the Forerunners to study the Floods, and the Flood literally overthrew them and destroyed the Forerunners. So,
Basically.
while keeping the Flood's origin still very ambiguous, that's what the rings were made for. And if you ignite all the rings, pretty much it's, the Flood have taken over everything. Now we need to destroy everything. Now we need to destroy everything.
Goodbye, universe. See you in a couple thousand years.
Yeah, pretty much which is it the universe or is it the galaxy that it wants to destroy? I think it's the universe, right?
It would destroy everything because there's just so many Halo rings, and we don't know how many there are. That's what I love about the series is you think you're like, oh, there's probably a couple hundred. But in reality, just a couple hundred would destroy an entire couple of solar systems.
Right.
It's crazy.
It'd be like Thanos' snap.
Hey man, we can't say anything about that snap.
Which, getting off topic real quick, you were very upset that the Thanos and the anus theory was.
Bro, I was so upset. I was like, Operation Penetration, bro. That was gonna be the best part out of that movie. I was like,
which I really thought at the end of that movie, and this is getting off track, but I really thought at the end of the movie, like, when he says, I am an edible, okay, real quick, Endgame spoiler warning. So,
well, if they didn't watch your first one, you already spoiled it. It doesn't matter. We've already spoiled it.
Endgame spoiler warning. Sorry, if you haven't seen it yet, what the heck are you doing on YouTube?
I saw it twice in a row. Come on, I got no sleep one night just to see it twice in a row.
If you're on YouTube and you think that you're gonna be safe from Endgame spoiler warnings,
you're wrong.
You're
wrong.
What are you doing? But anyways, when he said I am inevitable and he was about to stab his fingers,
edible? Edible is something that you eat.
Listen, whatever he says. And he snaps his fingers. Shut up! You
can't say it.
Give
me a second.
You can't say it either. But I really thought
inevitable.
I really thought he stopped because Ant-Man was growing to giant man in his butt.
No. But I knew that it wasn't gonna happen, but I was like, just thinking about the theory, I was like, that would be so funny.
Thanos and the anus. Operation Penetration. But anyways, where were we on Halo 2?
Somewhere, man. The galaxy, it would just blow up everything. Right.
Halo 2 did what Halo 5 did much better is I think it's every 2 missions you switch between Master Chief and you switch between the Arbiter, which I really liked because again, it's putting you in the shoes of the quote-unquote bad guy and making you feel something for them.
Well, see, I like the switching between Arbiter and Master Chief, but I think the main problem that I have with that game is I love everything about it, but when I want to play a Master Chief mission, I just feel like I'm playing the same, 3 or 2 missions because his other missions are just not as fun. I like it whenever he's out in the open. I don't like...
That's
whenever
the problem
they're in
with
the Covenant areas.
That is the problem with first-person shooter games, is that they are very repetitive. A lot of people complained about Anthem, which Anthem, you can tell that it takes a lot of inspiration from Halo and Call of Duty.
And Destiny.
But it's kind of like those 3 together, but Halo... That is the problem with first-person shooter games, is that they are very repetitive. It is very repetitive gameplay. It is very much go into the mission, shoot up all the bad guys, and then go to the next mission. But the thing about Halo is there's such an in-depth story to it, and there's dialogue going on throughout the entire game that it gives you more lore and more stuff, more expansion on the story and what's actually going on other than just shoot. Which, I will say this, every Halo game up until Halo 5 is rated M. I think the only 2 Halo games that deserve an M rating are Halo 1 because it is the bloodiest. Even though it is alien blood, it is the bloodiest, and Halo 3, which we'll get to in just a second, and I'll explain why it deserves that N rating. But every other Halo game deserves a T rating. Halo 2 should be rated T. There's no reason. there is no reason for that game to be rated.
It's just because of the blood. That's the only reason.
I think.
And then Sergeant Johnson, I think he says a bad word like once.
Yeah, but here's the thing: like Halo is not known for dropping the F-bomb ever. Like I don't think I've ever heard.
I think Sergeant Johnson says it once in one of the.
I think he says it once. I think he says it once in one of the legendary missions. Like you have to be playing legendary in order for a character to drop the F-bomb. Which I will say this: Johnathan is amazing at Halo. He literally plays legendary with the black eye skull on, which if you don't know what that is, it's melee your enemy to get your shields back.
Which is the only way you can survive.
He plays it with no HUD. He plays it with the black skull on, with the black eye skull on legendary, for fun.
Okay, you're giving me a little bit of credit here. I don't do it for fun. I, am seriously, brain dead by the time I finish one mission doing that. I do that so that my skills get better, so I don't have a bunch of little noobs sitting in a corner sniping me all day.
Johnathan is ridiculously good at Halo, so if you ever play Halo against him, you will get destroyed. You will get shreked.
I think the reason why I got so good at that, I know this is going off topic, but if you want to learn how to become a good gamer, you just gotta get good at studying other people. Like, I know how my brother plays, and I know how my brother Ricky plays.
Jerk.
No, because I know the way that you guys play.
Screen watching.
Hey, okay. I know how you guys play, and then I played against my friend Bailey. And his method is just all over the place that it's so unpredictable, you never know what's gonna happen. So if you want to become a good gamer, just become unpredictable. Like, you can't do that against an NPC because they're going to predict every single outcome that you're going to do.
Unless you're playing on easy, then the NPC's brain dead, but
I mean, that's still fun to kind of just snipe the... I mean, it's fun no matter what to shoot someone, okay? Not in real life. Not in real life. In video games.
This is painting you in a very bad light.
In video games. I promise, I'm a good holy person.
It's fun just to shoot somebody.
In video games.
I'm not gonna edit that out, by the way.
I know, because you don't know how to do it.
Shut up. Okay, so, but yeah, Halo 2 is really, I don't think that Halo 2 deserves the M rating that it got. I truly believe that it deserves a T rating. Same thing with Halo 4, and obviously Halo 5 got the T rating. Halo Infinite is obviously going to get a T rating, but none of those games except 1 and 3 deserve an M rating. None of them do, because they're not graphic. You're not there's no decapitations. There's really no swearing. You don't lose any of your limbs. So I never understood the justification behind giving it an M rating.
Yeah.
Which again, Halo 3 does deserve an M rating, and we'll get to why in just a second. But to cap off Halo 2 ends with the Arbiter allying himself with the humans.
He goes through this whole thing where the prophets he figures out that they're lying.
Yeah, he figures out what the Halo rings are, and that's where it implies that the prophets know what the Halo rings are capable of. And they want destruction of the universe. Whether they have a safeguard to where they can become the new rulers of the universe, or whether they're just hell bent on destroying it. Who knows? If they want to go out with it because they believe that the universe is an unholy place or whatever. We don't know, or whether they believe in their own fiction. You don't really know, but it is very heavily implied at this point that they know what the Halo rings are and they know what they're capable of.
Yeah.
So, So the prophets end up betraying the Arbiter, and he ends up allying with the humans, which does not go over well with the Master Chief in the third game. But we'll get into that.
Master Chief at this point, you forgot to mention the Flood in this game. So real quick, the Flood in this game, you figure out that they have basically a hive mind.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They have it's called the Grave Mind, and it is like a super intelligence. The thing that scares me about the Flood is not the swarms of them, like I was saying, even though it's really cool just to see a swarm of enemies coming at you. It's their intelligence. It's their way to problem solve around things.
Well, the Grave Mind, it's like a hival mind. The Grave Mind controls all the little parts of the Flood.
So if you destroy the Grave Mind...
And then you see, it kind of confirms in this game, it was very ambiguous to whether or not they were eating, whether or not they were feasting on Captain Keyes or they were taking information from him. In this game, it's pretty much confirmed that they take people, they keep them alive, and they take information from them.
Yeah,
Like, and
which you
that's how
see
they
with the
that's
Prophet
how
of
they
the
learn.
Regret.
That's how they learn, and that's how they grow. Like they take information from an oracle, and they take information from the
Regret.
Prophet of
Yeah.
Regret, right? And in the original game, like the Gravel Mind is just like a giant, enormous plant. Like that's
Yeah,
all it
it's
looks like.
just a grave.
It just looks like a plant. In the remastered version,
It is creepy.
It is horrifying.
It has
like,
teeth and it looks. Oh man, I can't even describe
it
it
has
like
teeth
without.
and and it's bloody and you can see the eyes inside the gums and it is, but it is awesome. Like obviously,
It really is.
I'm not gonna put a picture up of it, but like if you've played the Master Chief Collection for Halo 2, you know what it looks like, and it looks great. Like they really did a good job on remastering.
Yeah, everything in that game looks great. But
okay, so let's move on to Halo 3. So Halo 3, I really like Halo 3. Although it's not my favorite game. Halo 2 is my favorite game because of the story and because it makes you feel something for the Covenant and it shows you that literally what they're doing they believe is 100% correct. And that's the best way to craft a villain, I think.
it really is.
Is to not okay, and I'm not talking about the stupid Revenge of the Sith thing where he's saying, "From my point of view, the Jedi are evil." That's obviously not a good way to do it. But to have the villain believe that what he's doing, like he's thought of either whether it's he was born to believe this way, or or General Zod's situation where he believes that the only way to build his society is to tear a new one down, which he could have colonized on Mars, which I've talked about, which me and Rick have talked about that, and we'll probably talk about that in the future when we do our Man of Steel episode. But that I like villains like that they believe what they're doing is absolutely correct, right? Like I really do like that. So Halo 3 is the game is one, if you're playing cooperative, one person plays as the Master Chief and one person plays as the Arbiter. There's no intertwining missions. They all have missions together. So
Yeah.
I really like that aspect of it. And getting into that, Halo 3 deserves an M rating because there's a scene which is horrifying.
It's not a cutscene. You see it like through.
It happens in
through
real.
first
It happens
person.
in real time, where it's on the mission Floodgate, which is it goes back into the horror element of Halo because Halo 3, the Flood have a very heavy presence in that game.
Yeah.
They are all through it. Where in the other two games they were kind of just in the final. They were very much in the final act of the game. They are all throughout Halo 3. Like they are everywhere in Halo 3 because the premise of the game is Cortana has been kidnapped by the Flood and now you're going out to find her. Because at the end of Halo 2, which we forgot to mention this, she's captured by the Gravemind.
Yeah, Master Chief has to leave behind Cortana, which is his companion, his AI.
Every Spartan has an AI companion, and Cortana is his.
Yeah, and he has to leave her behind so he can catch up with the Prophet of Truth's ship.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how he gets back to Earth. Because he's at, like, the Covenant City, or whatever it's called. Trying to stop him, and basically he ends up on the Prophet's ship, and somehow, we don't know how, but he gets off of it and he crash lands on Earth, and this is how the story of Halo 3 starts out.
He jumps off of it at the beginning of the game. You see him jump off of it.
Well, you just see he could have jumped out. He could have gotten pushed out by elites. He could have.
No, he jumped out. He jumped because in the beginning of the game, what's his name? Sergeant Johnson says, "Why do you always jump? One of these days you're going to land on something as stubborn as you are." So no, he jumped. It makes it very clear that he jumped out because he's a badass. But
yeah, Master Chief is really the coolest character ever in video game history.
Right.
I might be exaggerating a little bit because Ezio from Assassin's Creed is way cooler than Master Chief.
This is something that fans have argued for a really long time. Who do you think would win in a fight, Captain America or Master Chief?
That's really hard because I love Captain America and I love Master Chief, but I feel like it would either end up with both of them seeing that they're not evil and that they can like work together to defeat a
Well,
common
this is just putting it in the aspect of they're going to fight each other regardless.
I think they're too evenly matched that they would just end up killing themselves. Because Cap's not gonna stop
you
till
can't. You have to. Here's the thing. Like people, like I remember talking to this about my buddy Justin, and he said he'd put him into an arm lock and possibly he'd break his arm immediately if not breaking it off. It's like that wouldn't stop Captain America though.
Yeah.
Like you have to you either have to knock him out or you have to kill him.
Yeah.
Like he would even if he lost an arm, he would keep fighting. Like you have to knock him out.
Yeah,
Much,
and
you know,
even though Master Chief would have weapons and grenades, Captain America has a shield. Okay,
he has
that's
a
all he
vibranium
needs.
shield, and he's been shown to like take fires from a gunshot and keep going.
Like
you have to kill him.
In Infinity War, he holds Thanos' gauntlet up above his head.
Which it's very heavily implied that Thanos was kind of just toying with him. You know, like.
Well, I mean, at the same time, you see Thanos and he's kind of like pushing his hand down, but he's kind of scared because he sees this human and he's like, this human's not stopping.
Which,
like,
yeah.
He should be afraid, and he knocks him to the side.
Right. And that's why I feel, and I think that Captain America would end up winning that fight, not because he's stronger than the Master Chief, just because he simply has the grit and the willpower to win that fight.
But also, you never see Master Chief give up, no matter what the odds are. Right. You never see him give up. That's why I think that it would just end in a stalemate. Like they would both die, or they both just stop fighting.
I think they would just end up killing each other. Like they would just. Yeah. Or just pass, or they would both pass out from extreme exhaustion. Which that's a video for another day. But that is a very interesting question to ask. To like who would win that fight? I personally think Cap would win that fight, mainly because I love Cap. But anyways, that's getting way off track. But did we ever get into? I don't think I ever got into why.
Halo 3's, you explained Halo 3's M rating for a little bit.
But I never got into why. That I totally went off track. But yeah, so there's a scene that's horrifying where Master Chief sees a man getting taken over by the Flood in real time,
like alive.
In the scene Floodgate, which is a very horror based level. Which the Flood the Flood are out throughout the entire game. The Flood are there throughout the entire game, where he sees in real time. You see it happening. The Flood. There's a Flood spore taking over a man alive, and it shows it and you can hear him screaming. And you have two choices in that scene: let it play out and let him get and take over, or kill the guy.
I always choose to kill the guy. Like it's not like you get a direct choice. Like the game implies you say like, hey, either kill him or leave him alive, and then kill the Flood afterwards.
You have to make the choice yourself.
Yeah, like the game doesn't say anything about it. There's also a scene where another Marine is like going crazy, and has a gun to his head, and he's like talking to himself and saying that like oh, the Flood told me to kill these guys, basically.
Yeah.
And, like, you can either leave him there to go crazy, or you can
It's very heavily implied that that guy was taken over by a Flood, and somehow either the Flood left him, or he somehow got freed of the Flood's control. Like, it's very heavily implied that, like, the Flood can take you over and then leave without killing you.
I feel like it was just the Gravemind. The Gravemind probably entered his mind and just...
That's definitely what that game implies. But yeah, so Halo 3 is the most, I think, out of the games, it has the most horror aspect to it. Because again,
it's also the most gory. Like, you shoot the Flood and they just basically... all their limbs fall off and they just fall into chunks on the ground.
Again, it's just the Flood, though.
Like, I know, like, it's the Flood. It's not very graphic. Like, it's not like you can clearly see where, like, their arm has been blown off. It's like chunks everywhere.
Right, but yeah, so I definitely think that Halo 3 does deserve an M rating for those reasons. But Halo 3 is a very intense game, and it's also like I said, it's also the most horror-based game because there is a lot of jump scares and there is a lot of like times when you're in the Flood facility and it kind of plays those piano keys where it's like bong, bong, like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in that game, which I really do like that game. But it's not the best game, and here's why. The story is very lackluster. It tries to combine horror with action, which doesn't really work all that well.
I mean, I can see what you're saying, but also at the same time, I just realized we haven't really discussed what the stories are really about. We've discussed main points in the stories, but I mean, we
Well,
didn't say
we're
what.
not really discussing the stories. We're just discussing what these games are and what they've done for video game series.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you want a little backstory to Halo 3, the main, like, end thing is to basically kill the Flood. That's what you're
Yeah,
doing from the
it's
first game to the third.
It's to destroy the Flood. Like
Yeah, I just wanted to get that out of there so that people
that's
knew.
what the games have been leading up to this point. Like Halo
Yeah.
1 introduced the Flood, but that's the thing is like Halo 1 and Halo 2 only really had the Flood in the last act of the game. Halo 3, the Flood
Is when they introduced them
the
as...
Flood is the main villain of the game. Like it is forget our differences because you know the Covenant and the humans join up. Obviously, it's forget our differences. We need to combine against a greater cause. You know, we need to destroy this parasite, which
Yeah.
they end up doing. They end up destroying the Halo ring before.
Well, it's... in Halo 3, they're not really on a Halo ring. They're on something called the Ark.
Right.
And the Ark is, like, the center place of detonation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to be where you can go to so you can set off all the Halo rings at once simultaneously.
Which they need to stop
Yeah.
because the prophet of
Truth.
No, Truth dies in the second one.
Truth dies in the third one. So for
So
spoilers,
Mercy-
if
so
you've never
Mercy-
played the game, Arbiter.
So it's Mercy who dies in the. Mercy's the old one, correct?
Um,
Regret is like the really annoying one, and then Mercy's the really
old one. Yeah.
old one. Are you sure that's not Regret?
Regret and Mercy are both like semi-old, and then Truth is.
I think it's Mercy. No, I think it's Regret who is. No, not Regret. Regret's taken by the Gravemind. I think it's
Mercy. No, Mercy
Truth,
dies.
Truth died. Okay, so Regret dies by Gravemind.
And then
Is absorbed by Gravemind.
and
Truth,
then a little
Truth dies by the.
No. That's Mercy.
Mercy dies by the
There you
Flood
go,
strangling
there
him,
you
and then
go.
Truth is Truth's the main villain. Truth and the Flood are the main villains in the third one.
You can see who the real Halo fan is here. Okay.
I haven't played Halo. Granted, I haven't played Halo in a really long time. Like I haven't played the main three in a really long time.
Neither have I, and I still know everything.
But yeah, so at the end of the game, you get Cortana back, and she's obviously been corrupted. And it was a kind of a back thought in that game that she was about to go through rampancy, which we'll get into, because that really takes place in the fourth game. But yeah, so she's taken over by the Hival Mind, and by the end of the game, you get her and are able to stop the Halo rings from going off simultaneously. Where would you put Halo 3? Which at the end of this, we'll rank all the Halo games from worst to best. But do you enjoy Halo 3? Do you think it's a good game, or do you think it's one of the least worst ones?
I don't count
ones
Halo
that don't
3
go that
or
great.
Halo 2 by themselves. I count them together because it's literally one story after the other. Like, Halo 1, there's a big enough gap, but Halo 2 and Halo 3 happen so close together that I just think of them as one game, so they're at the exact same spot.
Okay.
It would be...
That makes sense. Okay, so, and then we get into Halo 4. Now, a lot of people don't like this game, and I can totally understand why, but I really like Halo 4. I really like the villain in it. I really like the tones with Cortana. It's a really solid game.
I think the story is amazing. I like the soft reboot. Many people don't like the new art style because there is a new art style in the game.
Right.
I love it. I love the darker tones. I love the way that they went with the game. I hate the fact that you're constantly fighting against the things that are so much more powerful than you. Most of the time, it just seems like you're running away from the enemy when you usually are the one charging at them, shooting.
I will say this. Well, I do like the what's his name?
The
villain-
Didact.
The Didact. I do like that villain. The villain of this game should have been Julius Odamas.
Julia Adama.
Julia Odama. Right. They shouldn't have
Julius
made him the
Adamas.
villain. They shouldn't have made him. Shut up. Julia Odama. They shouldn't have made him the villain for just Spartan Ops. Because Spartan Ops is kind of like its own little side quest game, right?
Yeah.
Where there are cutscenes and there is a interweaving story in it where Julia Odama is the main villain. He should have been the main villain of the main game.
Yeah. Did you ever play all the way through Spartan Ops?
No, I never did.
The story in it is really weird because I never played it in chronological order because I went from mission to mission, like
If you
kind
play
of.
it in chronological order, you get like the cutscenes and
Yeah,
the
you get everything together, but well, there actually are no cutscenes for.
there is cutscenes.
Oh,
Like you can go up on YouTube and find the cutscenes for them, and there is a story that's interwoven in it, and it's pretty good. But yeah, Julio Adama should have been the villain for the main game. He shouldn't have been, say, for just Spartan Ops or like side comics and stuff. Because here's the thing about Julio Adama is he's not like this great military mind. He's a gangster that's trying to reform.
not so much as a gangster. He's a religious fanatic.
Well, he feels like because he feels like what the Hutts do for Star Wars. He's very much just like this rogue element to the Covenant that's more like a gangster than anything else.
I would say
that's trying to reform.
He's more like a terrorist. I think.
Yeah, he's a terrorist, but he's very much like a mobster kind of for the Covenant, which is a really interesting aspect. But they should have integrated into that game. And the biggest problem with that game, even though I like the Didact, is the Didact. The Didact is probably the most bland villain in any Halo game. He has no backstory.
Well, I mean, he does have a backstory, but you have to read far into the lore, which I doubt you have taken really the time to do that. Since I know I kept on saying that I'm not really a nerd. I'm a nerd. I read into the backstory, which it's pretty cool. I don't have the time to explain it because I don't remember half of it. All I remember is that it's pretty cool. You should check it out sometime. Go look it up on YouTube.
Wow, that's amazing. I don't remember it, but it's pretty cool.
But it's pretty cool. I remember half of it. Okay, like I remember main details, but I couldn't say it as well as most people probably could.
But yeah, so the problem with him, he's a very bland villain, and I understand like the main thing he has going for him is he's like the last Forerunner or something like that.
Yeah, he's the last of his kind. His kind, the main backstory is that
that's another thing I don't like about Halo 4, the Prometheans.
Well,
I don't like the Prometheans. They are such a shoe-in. They are such a forced-in villain that they just feel so blech.
Well, if I explain this. So the Forerunners, what they basically are, they're like the ancient like civilization of aliens.
They built the Halo rings.
They built the Halo rings
to study the Flood.
Because they created the Flood.
Well,
because they were trying to make a new type of intelligence.
Though.
It does in the lore. It does in the lore. You gotta read into the lore. That's the one thing I remember. They made the Flood and then they figured out that.
So is the Flood the Flood is a biological weapon then, I guess, right?
It's not technically a biological weapon. They made it, I think it was by like accident because they're trying to make a new kind of intelligence. Like kind of like an AI, but they were trying to make it better, but I forget, it went wrong somehow. Actually, no. They were trying to make the Prometheans, but they're
right now, no, I remember that now. That's something that Halo 4 told us. That's right, I forgot that. That's what the librarian tells you.
Yeah, so
right. I remember that now.
The ancient humans,
which another thing I don't like about Halo 4 because that gives the Flood an origin. I like the Flood better as an ambiguous force. Like you don't know where they came from. Because in the first 3 games, it was very heavily implied that they were a biological weapon. Like, what did the Forerunners use them for? Did they sell them to people? Did they use them to destroy civilizations? Like, what was the Flood used for? And the fact that it tells us in Halo 4 what they came from and their origin ruins the Halo, ruins the lore. It ruins it for me because now I know everything about the Flood, and it's really underwhelming. Like the backstory that they.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like showing a curse on the Forerunners because they did bad on their part because they were trying to punish the ancient humans because humans were just expanding. So the Forerunners pushed them back. They took test subjects and they tried to mix them with, like, I think it was like with machines or something like that.
Something like that.
And they accidentally made the Flood somehow. Right. And then they made the Prometheans also out of humans to stop the Flood. Mm-hmm. That didn't work. So the Flood just got way overwhelmed, and so they blew up basically the universe with their whatever they're called, Halo rings.
Right.
And the Forerunners banished the Didact because he was the guy that was trying to get the Prometheans to finally wipe out the ancient humans so that there would be no more humans.
Which
that the flood would not
isn't
have
that
food source.
doesn't it try to like drop on you that like the Forerunners are all humans' ancestors or something like that?
It's not human ancestors. It's what they try to drop on you is that Master Chief is years and years and years and years of planning by the Forerunners.
Maybe this game's not as good as I remember.
Yeah, like
Halo 4 has a lot of flaws. Like I will give it I will say that there's a lot of people who don't like that game, and I will say it has a lot of flaws.
It really does, but at the same time, when you think about it, it just expands so much of the lore that you can't really hate it because it gives something the nerds to really break down.
Right.
Like us, that we've spent an hour so far, and we're only on the 4th game.
We got one more game to go. That's it.
I know we're on the, but I mean, in reality, I could probably keep on going and going.
Right, we can keep on going, but I don't want to make this a 4-hour-long episode. Like it's almost 10 o'clock. I got work tomorrow.
Well,
So
yeah.
We'll
try to wrap it up, people.
We'll try to wrap it up.
Which,
listen, I don't mind going for an hour, and if we had time, because we're recording this on this is going to be released on Saturday. We're recording this on a Tuesday, because
they don't know that though.
Well,
but now they do
now
because of you, big mouth.
Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter when we're recording this, like, because the benefit of being able to record podcasts is you can record them whenever you want. You just you release them on different days, right? So yeah, we are recording this on a Tuesday, but it's going to be released on Saturday.
But which Tuesday is it? Is this really the first episode, or is this the 3rd episode?
You're an idiot.
They don't know that yet.
Listen, it's technically the second episode, but it's really the 3rd episode.
No, it's the 3rd episode no matter how you look at it because you already got the last episode up.
Yeah, but
exactly. So it's the 3rd episode. I'm smart.
Our review,
you're wrong.
Mine and Rick's review of Endgame, which listen, I'm not satisfied. I want to redo that review with him because I'm not satisfied with it. And I really do apologize for this, guys. Where you're listening, you can hear me, but you can't hear him, and that that is very much my fault because I only have one microphone at the time at the time of the recording this. But he does. But on his part, he does not talk loud enough in that video. Like, it is very hard to hear him.
Yeah, Rick. At one point, sometimes Rick can be very soft-spoken. At the other times, he's loud like us. Like, I'm pretty sure you're going to have to turn your volume all the way down. Because I've been screaming this entire time. And I'm not stopping for you guys. Okay. I'm going the whole 100%.
This game ends with... And another thing I don't like about this game is something that's not very Halo-esque is this game ends with a quick time event. Like the final showdown between you and the Didact is very underwhelming. Because it's you running up to him, hitting L.T.A.I, and planting a bomb on him, and that's it.
Well, I mean, the main thing is just the struggle because you see Cortana using the last little bit of her sanity, which in this game, I forgot to mention.
I really like she's going through rampancy in this game, which is a really sad thing to see. She's going through the 5 stages of grief. Which is
basically
denial. What is the 5 stages of grief? It's denial. Pull it up on your phone real quick.
Just hold on a second, guys.
She is going through because it makes it very clear that she is going through the 5 stages of grief.
5 stages of grief is. So the 5 stages of grief would be...
Okay, so denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So, or I guess this says 7 stages of grief, where it's shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, testing, and acceptance. But I've heard 5 stages before.
I've heard 9. There's too many stages.
And you know what? She doesn't, and because she's an AI, she doesn't go through the 5 stages in order. Like, obviously she goes through, like, because at first she goes through acceptance. Like, because when Master Chief finds her, she's accepted the fact that she's going through rampancy. Like, she knows she's going through rampancy. And then it seems like as the game goes on, she goes through like a massive depression.
Because Master Chief is giving her more and more hope.
Right.
And she gets to the point where she's like, you know what? I was believing in him, and now I feel like I can't believe in him.
She goes through a massive depression in the middle of the game. It seems like she starts going through the 5 stages backwards, and then like she goes through acceptance and then a depression, and then she goes through denial where she believes she can get cured, right? And then she goes through a little bit of anger, but we'll get to that in a second because it seems like even though in Halo 5 it seems like she is cured from rampancy, I don't think she is. I think she's still going through it. I think she's in the denial and the anger stage in Halo 5.
So rampancy, if for anyone that doesn't know, it's basically AI's deterioration after years because they're only
I think it's 7 years that they can be in commission and then they start going through rampancy.
Yeah, and Cortana's been in like it for 9 or 8 years,
something like that. Like she's way past like the expiration date,
past the gone. Yeah.
Yeah, and so she is like going through it hard.
What many people think the reason why she's able to last longer than most people is not because she was made directly from human tissue and a human consciousness like Dr. Halsey, which is the person that made Cortana
and Master Chief.
It's the reason why she's able to last this long throughout rampancy is because the flood has infected her with the logic plague, which can turn a AI. Like, they can't
make them listen to Logic forever.
No,
if you don't know who that is, that's a very terrible rapper. But
he's not terrible. Okay, Logic got some good bars. He's got some fire, tasty, beautiful bars. Okay.
Were you about to say dick?
No. Okay, it's very hot down here.
I know I am. Thank you.
Not you, David. The Logic plague is basically. They basically do the same thing that they do to humans. They take over their body and they make them basically a flood.
Right.
That's basically what many people think the flood did to Cortana.
Yeah, but it feels like she's going through the stages of grief. And I think in this game she very much goes through acceptance. Like she's going backwards because she goes through acceptance and then depression, and then she goes through anger and denial, right? But in Halo 5, it's very interesting because I think my theory is she's still going through rampancy. But we'll get to that in just a second.
So we already talked about how Halo 4 ends. Cortana gives up her life, so they think Cortana's dead.
Right, and then she finds this place. It's like a world between worlds or something like that.
Not
it's
a world
like
between
where AIs can thrive, pretty much.
It's the... I want to say Dominion, but
something like that.
I feel like that's
but like she pretty much finds like the fountain of youth where she's
for AIs. That's what she literally calls it. She quotes it herself. She says it's the fountain of youth for AIs.
Which, okay, listen, Halo 5 is easily the worst Halo game in my opinion. I don't, and here's why I don't like Halo 5. And obviously we're getting to Halo 5 now because this is already an hour and 8 minutes long and I need to go to bed, but
yeah, so do I. I got a busy day.
Halo 5 is first of all, they kill off Julius Odama like super quick.
Yeah, like first mission.
Again, he should have been the main villain in that game because again, I like his aspect because he's not like this tragic military leader. He's more of like he is very much a terrorist. He's more of like a mobster or a gangster, and I want to see that played out more. I don't want. And I understand that fans didn't like him, but, turn him into a good character. Make him more developed. The reason why fans didn't like him is because he never got his development. And I feel like if you developed him more as a gangster or like a mobster, which basically what he was, he could have been a really, really interesting character. But the fact that they kind of introduced him in Halo 4 and then were like, oh yeah, well fans don't like him, so let's kill him off. It doesn't sit well with me.
I feel like he should have just been a crazy religious fanatic. Like, that's what I like about him.
Who is the main villain in Halo 5?
It's Cortana. Cortana's the main villain.
There's never like a satisfying payoff to fighting her. Like, because it kind of made you think, like the trailers to this game, and obviously they were trying to hide the fact that Cortana was back. The trailers to this game made you think that
the Guardians were gonna be
like the Guardians were going to play a role, and that you could choose in the beginning of the game who you wanted to play as, and that this game was going to have multiple endings, and obviously that never happened. And a lot of people think that that's going to play into Halo. That's going to play into Halo Infinite, but it was really like the trailers up to this game were very, very misleading.
Yeah, most people think that the trailers for Halo 5 is actually the trailers for Halo Infinite.
Which, if that's the case, that is a really cool thing that they did. But I think at the same time, they kind of dropped the ball on it because Halo 5 feels like a very rushed experience at the same time. Well, I do like Halo 5. Listen, I don't really believe there's such thing as a bad Halo game. I think they're all really I really like all of them, but Halo 5 at the same time feels very rushed. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it feels very, very rushed. But
Yeah.
I, it you know, Cortana's the main villain, but there's really no payoff. Like you don't really fight her, and she gets away at the end. And obviously, if you play the game in Legendary, she activates a Halo ring at the end, right?
Yeah.
And
That's the big.
which is nice because she hums the Halo tune. You
Yeah.
know, she and that's really really that I mean a lot. Obviously, that's like service, but that's really cool. So obviously, the Halo rings are going to return in Halo 6, and that means the return of the Flood. A lot of people think she's infected by the Flood, but that's my theory for this game is that she hasn't cured herself from rampancy. That the stages of denial that she's going through is depression or is anger and denial. Like she's going through those two stages at the same time because she thinks she's cured herself from rampancy when she really hasn't, and she's kind of angry at this world that kind of that tossed her aside, you know?
Yeah.
Because obviously, like her goal is to rule the humans with an iron fist, and she needs. I think the reason why she's trying to get the Master Chief is because obviously she has a connection to him, and I don't know if she wants to link her consciousness with him, or if she wants to save him to rule with her. That they didn't make that very clear.
What the main thing is throughout the lore you figure out that really Cortana's end goal is to live in a perfect world. The reason why she needs the Guardians to do that is so that they can bring on peace, because they're basically policemen for solar systems.
Right.
And
which it ties it back to because if and the Guardians are very important because if you play the game, if you play like multiplayer in the games and step outside of the map, you'll get killed, right? You can't like 'cause in multiplayer because of course they couldn't spawn in a big map because of technology. In Halo 1 and Halo not so much in Halo 1, but in Halo 2 and Halo 3, if you step outside of the map, there will be like turrets that shoot at you or there will be lasers or bombs or something, and each time it will say killed by the Guardians. So that kind of ties it back to that's what was killing you was these Guardians.
yeah, because you weren't really following the rules of the game.
Right.
But Cortana mainly she wants to become a human. That's the reason why when we see her, she's like wearing armor. She's
wearing clothes now.
Yeah, she's usually undressed.
Which,
but it doesn't show anything.
It just kind of like this is an AI. So why does she need to be clothed, right?
But in this, she has like armor, like clothing.
But that's weird. I think that they changed that for the game because in Halo 5, there's another AI piloting Captain Lamptey's ship that is also clothed. Like he's wearing like a suit and a ball cap and a hat and. So
well, I mean, I feel like always guys really did that, but I feel like this is kind of a changing point for Cortana because
even Master Chief John is his name. They use his name more than any other game. His name's John, but he even says you've changed. He even acknowledges the fact that she's different. You know.
Yeah, she's not the same Cortana from Kansas anymore, you know?
Yeah, she's not the same.
They're over the rainbow now.
They're over the rainbow. They found the pot of gold. She's not the same Cortana, obviously. So, it's a really interesting aspect to that game. But yeah, she's the big bad, and she'll be the big bad in Halo 6, which I really hope she gets a physical body so you can gotta go toe to toe with her. So
well, I don't really want to fight Cortana so much as I just want to I want there to be an end to
I think there needs to be a definitive end to Master Chief and Cortana's story. We
exactly. They're
like at this point, even though I love the Halo franchise, it's getting to the point where it's like, come on, guys, wrap this up. Like, how does this end? Where do you go from here? You know what I mean?
yeah, like I feel like this is gonna be the last one that they do with this, and then games from on now, it's either gonna be games like Halo Reach or games like Halo
Right,
ODST,
right.
which are fantastic games.
Which and I'll have you on the show again here soon, where we'll talk about those games. But obviously, we're not going to talk about them now because that's going to be like again. I don't want to make this like a 4 hour long video.
Yeah, it's already
so it's already 10 o'clock.
An hour and 15 minutes in.
But yeah, so that is a very hopefully they're able to do a really good course correction in Halo Infinite and wrap this story up because there's more stories to be told.
Yeah, there's so many more stories. You could do stories before John. You could do stories way after him. You could do stories about the Forerunners. There's so much in Halo lore
There's
that
so
they
much
haven't
Halo lore
explored.
in this, and like what the MCU is to movies, Halo is to the video game.
It really is.
I mean,
it
it's
really is.
I mean, it's one of the longest running video game series of all time. I think what's beating it is Doom and Wolfenstein. Like Wolfenstein is a very long running video game series, but Halo is too. Like Halo ain't no slouch. Halo's been running for 19 years.
Yeah.
Halo has been in mainstream medium since 2000. Like I remember playing that game when I was a kid. Since 2000, Halo has been in mainstream medium and video games. I mean, it's been relevant for 19 years. So that's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
And that's another thing about Halo games is we kind of mentioned this in the beginning is it's always had the best graphics out of any video games. Like they've always pushed for really good graphics.
Well, it's because they wait a couple years and they see what the graphics are doing, so they start their models.
Like Halo,
and then they bump their graphics up. The thing that
the Halo Combat Evolved. Well, that game is extremely dated. It was the best looking game of the time. Same with Halo 2. Same thing with Halo 3. And that's that brings me back to my point is Halo 3 still stands up visually as a game.
Yeah, well,
like,
I mean,
it still looks phenomenal.
Their plans for like graphic designs is so smart because they can make their first game and then they can go 4 years and that game is still held up by their standards in those 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then they make their next game and those graphics are way above standards.
Halo 5 is a next gen game, right?
Yeah, like Halo 5 if you play it, it looks fine.
Halo 5 is a next gen game. Halo 4 is not, but Halo 4 almost looks as good as Halo 5.
Exactly, and they're only a couple years.
Halo 4 is not a next gen game. Halo 4 was made in 2014. Halo 5 was 2000. Halo 4 was 2012. Was 2012, and then Halo 5 was 2015.
2016, 2015, sometime between
something like that. And they look like Halo 4 looks almost as good as a next gen game. Like if you put if someone had never played Halo 4 before and you put it in and you told them this is a next gen game, they would believe you because that's how good that game looks.
It really does.
From cutscenes and from just gameplay in general, that game looks that good.
Now most people will be like, "Oh, well, there's these inconsistencies, like oh, these games look better nowadays." I mean, yeah. The technology is getting better, graphics are getting better, but you just gotta look at the flaws and you gotta be like, alright, well, how can we make this better? Mm-hmm. It's the same thing that they did for Avengers Infinity War. The graphics in that looked amazing, but sometimes they looked a little off, like Rhodey in his suit.
Oh my gosh, that is the worst effect ever. When he is in his suit looking for Sam.
That his head, but in this...
That was the worst effect I've ever seen in my life.
And then Thanos, grabs through Thor in one scene. But in Endgame, they got almost everything right. And I thought one of the scenes, spoilers if you haven't seen it, Hawkeye's in water. And I thought, the water was going over his complete hand. It looked like that, but it was only in the 3D. I watched the regular version, which you haven't yet. In 3D, it looks like that, but in regular, it doesn't look like that at all.
It doesn't look as good?
No, it looks amazing. it looks fine. In the 3D version, it looks like the water's like going
Oh,
completely
okay.
over,
Well,
like it's raising out of the
and
water
I
at an
should like,
angle.
well, in the first in Halo Infinity War, in Avengers Infinity War, Thanos is laying in that same water, and it doesn't look as good as him because he's a CGI character. Like,
Yeah.
so it looks even more like a cartoon. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't look as good because he is a CGI character. Because Hawkeye or Clint is a human, you can kind of CGI around that and make the world look more convincing around him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Um, Anyways, it's been an hour and 20 minutes since we've done this podcast, so we got to wrap things up.
List your.
Okay, so I want to hear from you. From worst to best, how would you rank the Halo games? In your own opinion.
Worst to best, it would probably have to be. Okay, before I list it and before people get mad at me, I want to say this: I'm not bashing on any games. I think all of them are amazing.
Right.
We've all above. That. They're above standards. I'm just saying, from in the franchise, which game do I think is the best and the worst? And the first game would have to go at the bottom. I feel really bad saying that because it was the first game.
Well, no, I would definitely agree with you on that. Well,
I don't feel like the story's all there. I feel like it's like we said. It's just really repetitive.
I understand why you're putting it. I agree with you because I understand why you're doing it. Although I would not put Halo 1 at the bottom, I definitely understand why you put it there. So, anyways, continue.
Then I would have to put probably ODST.
No, we're not counting the non. We're not counting the.
Oh, so just the. Okay, well
just
then
1 through 5. We're not counting the spin-offs.
Then it would have to be 4
mm-hmm.
after the first game, and then it would be, like I said, I count 2 and 3 the same game, so that would be the second best, and then my favorite would probably have to be Halo 5.
You like Halo 5 the best?
Yeah, but 2 and 3 are they're interchangeable.
But you count them as the same game.
Well, I mean,
because they are very much they take place. Halo 3 takes place right after Halo 2.
Yeah, well, I'm saying they're interchangeable between Halo 5. Like, they can switch places from first to second.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
I have no problem with it.
Okay, so for me, Halo 5 goes at the bottom. I mean, I like Halo 5, but the story's so lackluster and it feels very rushed. So Halo 5, Halo 3, the original Halo, Halo 2, and then... Wait, no. Halo 5, Halo 3... the original Halo, and then Halo 2. There's a lot of Halos. Oh no, Halo 4 and then Halo 2. I'm sorry.
Halo 4 and
Halo 4 and then Halo 2. So the reason why I put Halo 5 at the bottom is because, again, the story is very rushed. And then, again, they have that problem with not making Julius Adama the main villain, which they should have done. They should have done that for Halo 5, and they should have done that for Halo 4. Halo 4 ranks on my on lower on my list is because, well, it is a very good game. Again, it has that problem with trying to combine action with horror, and those two, they don't really blend well.
Except for in Resident Evil, that's the only time
that Resident Evil is the only one that's really done it. But at the same time, But at the same time, Resident Evil is not really known for its jump scares. Resident Evil is very much an action game. You know what I mean? Well, it does have zombies in it and stuff like that. It is very much an action game.
Well, I mean, go play Resident Evil 7 and you're going to get
the
pants scared off of you.
Well, that's the thing. Resident Evil 7 is not an action game. Resident Evil 7 is very much a horror game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, like the original Resident Evil games are action games, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, they're action games with zombies in them. But Halo 3 tries to be a horror game, and it doesn't really work all that well. And then Halo, which one did I say after Halo 3?
Halo 1.
Halo Combat Evolved. I love that game, but it is very dated, and I think that's why it ranks lower on my list.
Yes.
Halo 4, I love Halo 4, but there's a lot of inconsistencies with Halo 4. Obviously, we learned the Flood's origin, which I don't like because I like them better as an ambiguous force in the universe. Like, I don't like knowing where they came from. Like, just keep them ambiguous, you know?
Yeah, which I understand.
Yeah, just keep them ambiguous. And also it goes back to that problem with not making Julius Adama the main villain. He should have been the main villain of that game. You could have solidified his role as he's a gangster, or he's a terrorist, or he's sort of like a mobster that's trying to start the Covenant from the ground up. Like, you could have done so much with that, and they didn't. So that really bothers me. And then, of course, Halo 2 because Halo 2 introduces the fact that the Covenants, the Covenant they believe what they're doing is absolutely correct, and it makes
Yeah.
you care for them. Like it makes you care for the bad guys, which it's one of the games that successfully does that. So, yeah, I think that about does it. That wraps it up.
Yeah, that wraps it up.
Jonathan, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey,
I'd love to have you
pleasure.
on another video to talk about the spin-off Halo games. And thank you so much for agreeing to do this podcast with me.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully we can have you back soon, but hopefully the two videos that will come out this week are obviously this video, and hopefully on Sunday I'll be able to get with my buddy Jordan, and we'll be talking hopefully about Shadow of the Colossus.
If not, you guys are stuck with me.
If
Oh
not,
yeah.
you're stuck with Jonathan.
I'm ready to talk about the big boy Colossi.
Yeah,
go.
so if Jordan's not available, me and Jonathan will be talking Shadow of the Colossi next week, or Shadow of the Colossus, and hopefully sometime soon I can get Rick back on the show. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, this has been Let's Talk About It. I am David, and again the guest host with me today was Jonathan. So Jonathan, say goodbye to our fine audience.
Bye guys. Have a great night.
Have a great week, guys, and God bless. We love you. Bye.